this. So I got another fun kind of Trump sycophant for you. Only this guy was on CNBC, which kind of, as a finance person, this kind of pissed me off a little bit. But we'll jump into the soap. This guy on CNBC, he's got Pete Buttigieg, who's the Secretary of Transportation, on, and he's grilling him about the border. Just like, okay, why would you invite the Secretary of Transportation on for that? I don't understand that. It doesn't seem like that would be in his purview, unless he oversees transportation across the border. I don't know. But, so he's racking him on the border, and Buttigieg stands up to him and basically smacks the shit out of him. It's pretty funny. We're going to jump into that. So this is their little interview.
Hold on, let's be clear here,
let me finish first. But every time we hear those talking points that suddenly it was Republicans who ruined the border, that's why people get so frustrated. We know what President Biden said about inviting people in. We know that he got rid of all the things that were keeping the border closed that President Trump had put in. We know that he got rid of all those. So when you say it's not his fault...
So I don't know if you notice Pete Buttigieg shaking his head, because that's bullshit. Biden didn't change that much about Trump's policies. In fact, Biden's been pretty draconian on the border. He just tried to keep it quiet.
That's literally not true. It's literally not true that he got rid of the
Did you see 7.2
separation?
Did you see 7.2 million people come in during the Trump administration? It was a trickle.
He got rid of the policy to tear children out of the arms of their parents. That's true. But it is not true. Some of the other things that have been suggested. Let's be clear. Bipartisan.
So I want to jump back to that. So that's a great point right there, which is, look, the only thing we changed is we're not taking kids away from their parents and throwing them in cages. Like we did under the Trump administration. We're not doing that anymore. Okay? So yeah, he stopped doing that. That's terrible. Yeah, we should be doing that again. No, it was horrible.
We definitely need those kids in cages? Like, are you serious?
Yeah. On top of that, he's like, okay, the one thing Pete doesn't address, and I don't know that he should, but he's like, okay, you got 7.2 million people. Really, we have a ton of people coming over from the border. That has nothing to do with Biden. That has to do with the economy. Right? Because you could sit there and say, yeah, in Trump's last year in office, almost nobody came across the border. You know why? It was fucking COVID. It was a pandemic. Nobody was traveling. Basically, everything was locked down. There were no jobs. You come across the border, you weren't going to get work. But now we have a very, very good economy, and we have a very tight labor market, which means there's more jobs than there are workers. And so if you're coming from Guatemala or Mexico or wherever it is, Costa Rica, and you're broke, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, I want to come to the U.S. and get asylum or whatever it is, El Salvador, Venezuela, whatever. I mean, the U.S. has lots of jobs. And these people are looking for work. So yeah, you have a ton of people coming up here now because they heard there's lots of work in the U.S. And it's true. So yeah, it's not Biden's issue, it's the economy's issue. So we'll get back to this, but Buttigieg smacks him around some more.
Part of the problem with why there's a disconnect
taken place in 2015, 2006. I mean, literally since the Reagan administration, right? There have been bipartisan efforts to get something done here, but I really believe we've gotten to the point where many congressional Republicans find it so useful as a cudgel that they would rather keep the problem going for political uses than solve the problem and risk the chance that the president could share in the credit for that. In the same way that we see.
So I want to get into that. So that's Buttigieg's big kickback. So he's saying, well, look, Biden's being soft on the border. Biden's not doing enough about the border, blah, 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 blah. Buttigieg's saying, well, wait a second. The Senate just passed a bipartisan bill that basically gave the Republicans everything they wanted on the border in return for aid to Ukraine. And it went to the House, and looked like they were going to take it. And then Trump said, no, don't do the bill. Don't pass it. Because I want to be able to run on Biden's bad on the border. So don't solve the problem. Then when I get into office, we'll pass the bill and I can take credit for it.
Well, given he has no platform, I guess he's got to figure out something to run on.
Well, and Mike Johnson went with it. You know, and that's the thing is to sit there and say, okay, well, it's the Democrats and it's Biden. It's not doing anything about the border. Well, no, they just pushed this bill through and the Republicans shot it down because Trump told them to do it. So they fucked it. So why are you blaming us? We brought something to the table that gave you everything you wanted, and you guys shut it down because you want to be able to complain about it, which is what he's fucking doing right now.
Some of them, even though we had great bipartisan cooperation on the infrastructure bill that I work on, a lot of them who were against that, only to turn around and try to get credit for it when we actually have a ribbon cutting or a groundbreaking.
The reason that some of these numbers stay where they are is because it just seems like instead of actually owning some of the issues that we have, instead of acknowledging that the president maybe has lost a step, the administration keeps saying, "Don't believe your lying eyes," and that's why you're
respectfully, Joe,
that's why you're at 18%.
Respectfully, I think congressional Republicans are saying, "Don't believe your lying eyes," which is why they're polling at about 15% right now.
I know that
right
Congress
now,
is never.
We have.
Congress isn't running
we have
for
economic numbers
for
that
president.
is it my lying eyes that under Joe Biden we've had the most job creation in American history? Is it my lying eyes telling us that unemployment and inflation are both below 4% and have been that way for the longest time in who knows when? Is it reality or is it spin to point out the fact that manufacturing jobs are up under this president and we're down under the last president? These are matters of simple fact.
When we heard for 3 years the border's closed and it's secure, and New York has said it's closed, and 7.2 million people have come into where our big cities have no idea how to handle this, and then you hear from the administration
here's the thing.
that it's not their fault.
This is really important, okay? The common sense position, and the position that, by the way, a lot of moderate Democrats and moderate Republicans would always say, the kinds of things that you hear at the Chamber of Commerce in Indiana, where I come from, is that there ought to be more legal immigration and less illegal immigration. And yet when there's a chance to actually do that, that's not what happened. The last administration cut legal immigration. And meanwhile, our economy is pulling people just as much as terrible conditions in Latin America are pushing people. And when there's finally a bipartisan compromise that would help address at least some of those issues, congressional Republicans couldn't get it done because Donald Trump, who's not even in elected office, killed it. That is a fact.
That we'll see whether this moves the needle. I just think the American public just wants something that benefits them. They just.
That was his. Oh, we'll see. So Pete Buttigieg goes on to CNBC. This bullshit artist doing Trump's bidding. He's doing exactly what Trump wants. And Pete Buttigieg just slaps Trump's dick right out of his mouth. Oh, well, we'll see how the needle moves.
Good job, Pete. Good job.
The only thing that pisses me off about this is CNBC. This is their finance channel. This guy's supposed to be doing financial analysis, and he's spewing bullshit about the border. Now, most financial people like me are going to watch that and go, this guy's full of shit. That's not what's happening. We know that. Why? Because we have to invest on that. Our money, we're putting our money on this. Our money is where our mouth is all the time. But if you're Joe Blow sitting at home and you're worried about your retirement, and you're sitting there like, oh, maybe I should watch the finance channel. Yeah, I'm watching the finance channel to see what I should be doing with my money. Then he's going to go to what? A commercial about buy gold because the recession's happening. We're being invaded by the Latinos.
Right.
And then these people get hurt. Then they invest their money in stupid shit. Because they're misinformed. That's just what pisses me off.
It's honestly kind of like a shame on them sort of thing. Like, why are you doing all of that? Yeah.
Yeah.